Hello there, you awakening wonders, whether it's the 6.6 million of you on YouTube, whether it's the 1.4 million of you on Rumble, or the 11 million or so on X, formerly Twitter. With all due respect to Elon Musk, the great proprietor there, we've got a fantastic show for you today. Thank you for joining us. I can hardly express my gratitude towards you sufficiently, and thank you for the ongoing support, all of you. I'm incredibly moved by it, and I recognise that it's very important that we continue to do our best to convey to you the truth as we understand it, to convey transparently to you the news and evolving world events in the best way we possibly can, inviting your cooperation, your collaboration. That's why it's important you post about this. That's why it's important, if you can, that you follow us and become a member of our Awakened Wonder community. There's a link there if you're not a member yet. If it's within your means, please join us. On the show today, we're going to talk about the news. There's a few interesting things. We've got Aaron Maté coming up to talk about the war, and we'll be talking about NATO expansion and Ukraine's destruction, and significantly how the mainstream media narrative doesn't cover explicit revelations from NATO directly that Putin warned them that if they continued their expansion, it would lead to war. This story, though, is astonishing in this peculiar, evolving global news space. Zelensky has visited Canada, of course, to get more funding for the ongoing war, where he has greeted and met and at least saluted an actual literal Nazi. I mean, the literal Nazi. You know, the word Nazi is used quite profligately these days in the extraordinary times that we live in. But when I say Nazi in this instance, I mean, you remember Adolf Hitler and that army he had and that National Socialist movement that defined Germany and then the world in the late 30s and up to the mid 40s? You know those Nazis? One of them.
A standing ovation for a Ukrainian veteran of the Second World War,
who fought the Ukrainian independence against the Russians and continues to support the troops today, even at his age of 98.
Invited by House Speaker Anthony Rota to witness Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's address to Parliament, Yaroslav Hunka is one of his constituents.
He's a Ukrainian hero, a Canadian hero,
and a Nazi hero. This is extraordinary. I suppose you could ask yourself some pretty profound philosophical questions. For example, whether or not there were people within the Nazi movement that had God and light and love in their hearts. It's not an inquiry that we want to undertake, given the obvious impact of the Second World War, the Holocaust, the genocide, the murder, the terror, the horror. But when looking at the current reporting on the current conflict, it's extraordinary to see an actual Nazi hailed when we already know that within the Ukrainian fighting forces there are Nazis. And of course, this is not to diminish Ukrainian efforts. This is not to diminish the real need for humanitarian aid in Ukraine. This is in fact to suggest to you, even though I know you know this because you are awakening and becoming enlightened along with us, that we have to look at the nuance and details in news reporting, that we have a news media that simplifies, reduces, amplifies, exaggerates, and sometimes out and out lies in order to curate a public space in where telling the truth becomes impossible and implausible, and dissent becomes an act that is absolutely verboten. That's a German word that would have been used by our friend there who's getting saluted by Zelensky. I mean, if we're going to celebrate actual Nazis, I remember one Nazi really stood above the crowd. Not literally, he was quite a short guy, but in terms of his contribution to Nazism, I mean, if we're honouring Nazis now, there's one guy that I really think you should investigate for a good old round of applause. Not my cup of tea, however, because I am against genocide and murder and expansionism and truly believe in unity, love, light and peace and awakening. These are some of the things we'll be talking to Aaron Maté about a little later. I remember our last conversation. I asked Aaron, like, how do you feel about, like, the Second World War, for example? You know, it's very easy to critique these wars if you're sort of inclined towards dissent and questioning legacy media narratives. Are you not just sort of a de facto oppositionist who opposes this simply because the mainstream are telling us this is how we're meant to look at this conflict, and you, because you're sort of a contrarian, are opposed to it? How would you have been in the Second World War? And he's like, well, you know, my father is an actual Holocaust survivor, and that was a heroic conflict. I feel that times are escalating. The world is changing. We're actually losing our contact with reality, with morality, with truth, with justice, with principles that we used to just assume were real principles. Judiciary, these are things that's just discarded now. What we live in is a technological totalitarianism where what we're moving towards is the ability to unperson you, to shut down your finances, to prevent you from communicating. Because if you can control dissent, if you can shut down dissent, then what is there to stop this great trajectory towards technocracy? A cadre of experts with absolute totalitarian power. And just to demonstrate to you that this is not just hyperbole and panic, New York City are introducing friendly, lovable, cuddly surveillance robots for your convenience and safety. Do you know, like when you're in Manhattan, you might think, sweet Manhattan, what a glorious city it is. Around every corner, a scene from Goodfellas. Well, not now it ain't. Now it's a surveillance robot spying on you, and just for now, spying on you. Who knows what they'll be doing in a couple of months or years.
Well, it seems like something out of a sci-fi movie. Robots appearing in the city's underground.
Fox 6's Richard G. Kovas shows us how the NYPD says this new tech will help with public safety.
Do you see how the news doesn't have any obligation towards objectivity? The news doesn't say, you're being told that this is for your safety, but we're going to scrutinize that before just telling you it, because in case this is a surveillance robot that will be used to further impede your already eroded freedoms. No, they peddle the conclusion that the state wants you to reach. Here is a lovely robot. Get used to it. When you see this robot, it's a friendly robot. Not like, I've got grave concerns about this robot on the subway and how it could be utilized, how, like so many things, it can metastasize into yet another tool for authoritarianism. It's not possible that could happen, is it? It's not possible that you might introduce measures like temporary passports or temporary 15-minute zones or temporary lockdowns or temporary medicines and then use that to create an authoritarian space where communication just becomes very, very difficult, where openness, where honesty, where transparency all fall by the wayside, where cherished principles are just discarded, and if you want to oppose this march, then you're going to have a robot knocking on your door in a pretty clumsy way from the look of them, because they look like an upturned wheelie bin to me.
To some strap hangers, it may look like something you'd find wandering around your local Stop and Shop.
It's really weird. What is it?
Weird, maybe, but this RoboCop, well, it's so much more than that.
We're taking existing technology, cameras, being able to communicate with people, and we're placing it on wheels.
This isn't anything to worry about. We're already spying on you. We're all ready to communicate. This is just tyranny, but on wheels now. And during the Christmas season, it's tyranny on ice.
Behold the NYPD's newest Crime Stopper, K5 Autonomous, a security robot that will soon patrol the Times Square 42nd Street subway station.
Think of your grandparents. Think of your ancestors, your forefathers and foremothers, and the values they instilled on you. Trust, community, love, kindness, compassion, unity, open-heartedness, a willingness to listen. Now look at this news item. Actual robots peddled out onto the street. They'll tell you it's progress. They'll tell you it's convenience. They'll tell you that it's safety. Unless you're in a state of perpetual fear, you won't tolerate stuff like that, will you? You'll say, no, you're all right. We'll govern our own spaces. We'll govern our own community. We'll have our own communication, thanks. We don't need a media that primarily seems to function as a tool of the state and the powerful, never questioning state authority, never questioning corporate authority, always willing to peddle their lies, always.
We will continue to stay ahead of those who want to harm everyday New Yorkers.
Who is that now? Who is it? Like, it used to be terrorists. Sometimes it's the Russians. Then it's germs. But really, do you know what it is? It becomes actually principles like freedom and liberty. The very words that are used to rally us into compliance are the principles that they most loathe. Your inner space, your attention, your ability to decide for yourself, your ability to run your own lives, your ability to trade, communicate, worship, your ability to love. All these things are being challenged. All these things are being inventoried, turned into data points, controlled. The police are becoming militarized. Data is becoming militarized. Information is becoming controlled. The ability to openly communicate, education, every single aspect of your life is becoming immersed in a chrome sphere of dystopian control. But it's on wheels.
Mayor Eric Adams unveiling K5 today underground, part of his new push to increase law enforcement technology in the country's largest transit system. The rollout comes despite crime in the city's subways, down 4.5% compared to last year, according to police.
We've got it down 4.5% without surveillance robots on wheels. Just imagine how lovely a subway ride is going to be when we can steal all your data.
We are taking an expansive camera network in the subway system and adding to it.
The 400-pound, 5'3" K5 is not...
We've already got an expansive camera network. How about more of that? You've only got one decision to make for yourself. Do you trust the state? Do you trust the state's relationship with corporations? Do you trust the judiciary? Who do you trust? And why trust? Why not verify? Don't trust, verify. How about autonomy within your own community? How about democracy? How about they don't get to introduce stuff like that without maybe you vote for it? How about that? How about, do you want surveillance robots on the underground? Now, admittedly, we're living in such a state of panic and anxiety and like heightened flight, fight, freeze states that it's difficult to remain rational and say, what is our vision for America? What is our vision for the United Kingdom? Our vision for our community? What do you see for your children and for your grandchildren and for the planet itself and for your community and the spaces that you love? Can you even think about that anymore with the energy crisis, with the food crisis, with the ongoing wars, with the constant threat of pandemics? No, it's very difficult to think straight, isn't it? But don't worry, because there's dystopia on wheels rolling up right next to you as you ride the subway to photograph your face and make sure you're not doing a non-compliant expression while you sit in dumb misery being ferried to a job that you loathe.
Nothing short of being high-tech. It's equipped with 4 cameras that will allow it to send back live video to the police department. But some subway riders say they're a bit concerned about their invasion of privacy. Others appreciate another set of eyes, even if it's in robot form.
They're sort of presenting it as if it's amusing and humorous. It's this kind of nullifying of the understandable anxiety you feel as you note that the state is stepping up power, the militarization of the police force, the technologization of the police force, the full immersion of surveillance. Remember, there's been no great reckoning on the revelations of Edward Snowden yet. No one's ever sort of gone, hey, we're going to stop doing that stuff. The Patriot Act, that was only for a temporary period, just rolls on and on and on. You have to ask yourself, do I trust this system? Is this system in my service, or am I in the service of this system? Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments. Remember, only the first 15 minutes will be ubiquitously available. Then we will be on Rumble. If it's within your means, join our community. When we get a little bit back more to normal, God willing, you will be able to comment while we're going along. Plus, you get additional content. There's all sorts of advantages, and it's the only way that you can support us continually at a time where your support becomes absolutely essential.
Well, I like that there are, even though they're not human eyes, that there are eyes that are following what's going on the platform.
I think that, yeah, it's an invasion of privacy because of us, the public, we don't agree to it. It shouldn't be put.
You can begin seeing K5 autonomous as early as tonight.
So the news is just doing the bidding of the say. Why don't you come out of your home for a brief moment? You're allowed out this week. Come out for a moment, see if you can spot a robot. But be careful it doesn't spot you, because it may not like you. If you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to worry about. But you never know. Next week, you may have something to hide, because the rules might just change. We haven't even got time to talk about US Senator Bob Menendez and his wife being charged with bribery in the most sort of old-fashioned, mad gangster fashion with gold bullion bars and briefcases full of money and stuff out of a bad 80s daytime film called Corrupto Cops or something. We haven't got time to bring you that. If you're watching us on YouTube or anywhere else, we love you, we appreciate you, we need you. Click the link in the description and join us for our conversation with Aaron Maté. Join us for our analysis of NATO's revelation that they knew they were provoking Putin to a state of war and they continue to do it anyway. Why are the mainstream media not reporting on this? We need you with us now more than ever, you awakening wonders. So click the link in the description, and if it's within your means, join our movement.